Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL. Today, we've got a full slate of updates to break down for you. This is the 122nd episode of Hawks Latest presented by FanArt, so hopefully you guys have been enjoying the ride. I know I have, but like I said, today we've got a whole lot to break down because Atlanta returned home to State Farm Arena on Tuesday night after a 4-game road trip, and they were back home, and man, the Hawks delivered. That was a great game. Atlanta looked amazing on both ends. It was one of those nights where really everything seemed to click. It was super fun to watch and, to be at in person. The ball movement was sharp. The energy was high, not just with the team, but just in the arena. I mean, the environment was great. That really helped. That really aided the win, especially in a specific part of the game that we're going to get to later. The pace was incredible. It was some of the best pace I have seen this team play with all season. I mean, they were getting down the floor like extremely fast, and Orlando was not ready for it. And most importantly of all, the young guys stepped up big time in Trae Young's absence. With a guy like Young sidelined, you need major contributions from some of the guys, some of the forwards and guards, just in playmaking in general. But Atlanta got that, and that has been a thing that they've struggled with, finding offense without Trae Young. But the offense looked amazing last night, and that was great. They shot the ball very well. They were getting very good looks. It looked like a game that Trae Young had played, but he didn't. He was still out. But Atlanta defeated the Orlando Magic last night, 127-112, to improve to 4-4 on the season. We are back at 500, and we definitely have some momentum, and it's exciting. It's a good time to be a Hawks fan. It's their third win in the last 4 games, and like I said in several other videos, the early season schedule is very difficult. It's just going to continue to get easier as we progress into the season. There's obviously going to be the tough stretches, but if we can survive this stretch without Trae, stay around 500, we're going to be in good shape. And I seriously think they can do that. So in today's episode, we'll break down the win in detail. Go over really everything that happened in that game last night. Atlanta's win to get them back to 500. We're going to talk about Zachary Rieseshay. He has been struggling a little bit, but he had a real breakout performance for Atlanta, and so that was really good to see, and he's back. There were a lot of overreactions regarding him in the past few days, and I really hate what I've been reading about him because, this is his second year in the NBA. He's still very young, and he was struggling in the beginning of the year, but he was bound to get it together, and he got it together last night against the Orlando Magic. He had his best performance of the season, and he truly dominated on both ends of the floor. So we'll break all of that down. Also, Jalen Johnson's growing stardom and, how he could potentially be an all-star this season and how Trae Young being out really impacts that. Also, we're going to check in on that New Orleans Pelicans draft pick. We're going to, every now and then, we're going to check in on how the Pelicans are doing because, as we all know, the Atlanta Hawks own their unprotected first-round pick. This upcoming draft, which, we still got a very long time for. It's not necessarily our focus right now, but, it's still something we need to talk about. We need to check in on the Pelicans because they did have a major update for them that's only going to make them get worse, really. So some not really good stuff because it does involve an injury, but good stuff if you're an Atlanta fan and watching them play specifically for the interest in their draft pick. So without further ado, let's go ahead and waste no more time and get right into it and start how the Atlanta Hawks came into Tuesday's matchup against Orlando looking for a spark. It had been a little bit of a rough stretch. They're still adjusting to playing without Trae Young. In this one, this is the third game, I believe, since Trae Young's injury against the Brooklyn Nets. So, they were in action and they were taking on the Orlando Magic, the division rival Orlando Magic. In the previous game against the Orlando Magic, Trae Young played. Atlanta still got the win. So they were already 1-0 coming into this game against the division rival, and so I at least thought Orlando would play with a bit more of an edge. I figured this would be a very difficult game, and I honestly didn't necessarily like it for Atlanta. But when we're talking about some of these guys providing a spark, Atlanta looking for one, they got one quickly in Zachary Rieseshay. Zachary scored 21 points to lead the way. He had an absolutely insane first quarter that we're going to break down more in the next segment. Nickeil Alexander-Walker followed with 20. He didn't have a very impactful offensive first half. but he was one of the guys who really helped seal the game late. Orlando didn't really have an answer for him. They had their hands full. They really started to apply the pressure on some of these other guys that were impacting the game very well, such as Dyson Daniels and Jalen Johnson. So then that led to Nikhil getting more isolation buckets really in the third and fourth quarter. Dyson Daniels, the guy we just mentioned, he had maybe his best game of the year. He was really impactful on both ends of the floor. The box score doesn't show the entire impact that he had, but still, though, his box score looks good. He had 18 points and 6 rebounds, 6 assists, so really impacting the game playmaking-wise, which is good to see. And I know that they gave him a lot of ball handling responsibilities in the second half. Quinn mentioned post-game that, because he was asked, he was like, what went into, Dyson being kind of the floor general for most of the game. And he kind of denied that. He was like, we have all these ball handlers. When you're playing against a team that has Jalen Suggs, you got to have multiple ball handlers. So we tried to mix it up a little bit in the game. And that was evident. But in the second half, I will say Dyson got a lot of run as the floor general. He also got a little bit of run like that in the second quarter with the second unit. I mean, he was the only starter out there, and he was playing with the rest of the bench guys, and those minutes were very good. Dyson did a great job being a floor general last night, and honestly, I expect more minutes with him handling the ball moving forward. I just think he's more of a natural fit at the point guard position than Na is. I mean, Na's been doing a great job, clearly, but Dyson is a naturally more gifted playmaker, so him at the point guard position makes a little bit more sense. But yeah, he had this 18.6 rebounds, 6 assists. And on the defensive end, I mean, he killed it. And also, just back to his offensive game, I mean, he's been getting to the rim all season, but he hasn't really been connecting. But in this game against the Magic, he was getting to the rim with ease. I'm not exactly sure what he saw in the defense, but he was attacking, better than we have seen him attack all season. I guess Orlando wasn't really focused on him defensively because of his offensive struggles to begin the year, but when he was getting to the rim, he was connecting. I mean, he finished the game 8 for 9 shooting from the floor. And so the degree of shots weren't a super high difficulty. But, 8 for 9 is still pretty unbelievable numbers that they're going to make his season numbers skyrocket just in terms of his shooting splits. I mean, 8 for 9. Really impactful game, just dominating the box score. Jalen Johnson, Atlanta's future All-Star, who could be an All-Star this season, who we're going to break down his game in a couple segments. He added 17 points. And this wasn't a standout Johnson performance like he has had in several games. I think the previous 4 games before this game, he scored over 20 points. So a bit of a step down, but still, we didn't need him to be the star. I mean, we had an all-around team effort that was, because more of Jalen's playmaking, because Jalen had 5 assists as well. And his playmaking is probably the most underrated part of his game, and it's really separating him from a lot of other people in his draft class like 4 or 5 years ago. And Kristaps Porzingis, Atlanta's newly acquired big man over the offseason, who's had a very interesting start because he's been very good offensively. He has not been good defensively. But he's still getting adjusted to his role. He chipped in with 15. Onyeka Okongwu, the center, who's kind of playing a very similar role to Onyeka Okongwu. I mean, to Kristaps Porzingis. Off the bench, though, he provided his usual burst of energy. He had 14 points and 7 rebounds. Atlanta might have the best center duo in the NBA. Like, if we're being real, I mean, having 2 quality center, like Onyeka Okongwu is a very above average starting center in the NBA, and Kristaps Porzingis obviously is as well. Not there are very few teams that can say that. Maybe a team like the Dallas Mavericks. I really don't know if there's many others that could potentially have a better center room than the Hawks. I think we probably have the best in the NBA. Onyeka has been great this season. He's probably been Atlanta's most consistent player, if we're being real, just in terms of what we're getting from the individual every night. But I mean, Kristaps has been good. But I mean, we need to see more from him on the defensive end, and the fit looks a little awkward because there's more of a natural front court fit with Jalen and Onyeka, and that's going to take Jalen and Kristaps some time to build some chemistry and everything. But that's natural. That's something that we knew was going to happen when we brought in KP. But the ceiling for the team gets a lot higher when you have a 7'3" guy who can shoot the 3 ball in the lineup. So the team last night shot 55.6% from the field. That is very good efficiency. And during the game, they led by as many as 25 points. They also shot nearly 40% from three at good volume. I mean, they were letting it fly, and they were connecting. The Hawks were in control from start to finish. I mean, this was a game that was really never in doubt. And I don't want to completely discredit Orlando, but man, like the vibes there are extremely low. Atlanta killed them, and so now being up 2-0 in the season series against a division rival, that's huge. I mean, I expect the Miami Heat to cool down a little bit. And so when Atlanta inevitably has the lead in the division, and maybe even before Trae Young comes back, having that 2-0 lead over the Orlando Magic, who also are going to be another team that they'll eventually get it together. I mean, this isn't a team that's going to suck. They're probably still going to make the playoffs, but it has been a very disappointing start to the year. The Magic never really stood a chance, especially after halftime. Atlanta's home crowd was getting into it, and the team, their team was losing momentum. Atlanta's just continued to gain momentum. Paulo Banchero, I mean, he did all he could for Orlando with 22 points and 11 rebounds and 8 assists. But he has a very interesting game. I don't really like Paulo Banchero's game. If I'm being completely honest, just my point of view on Banchero, I'm not the biggest fan of his game. He's way too mid-range focused, and he also has a tendency to shot chuck, and he has a very poor shot selection in my opinion. He can be very good in like transition and getting to the basket, but he rarely really doubles down on the stuff that makes him special as a player, and it leads to him shooting the ball very inefficiently. And as a player of that size, I mean, shooting the ball inefficiently, that's just not a great way to impact the game. He needs to focus on some of his strengths rather than force superstar level shots. That's my 2 cents. It's kind of off topic, but I really have not enjoyed watching Paulo Banchero this season. But the Magic, their night completely unraveled, and it wasn't because of Banchero. It wasn't because of any of these other guys other than Desmond Bane. There was a moment in the game that really kind of gave Atlanta the win. If we're being completely honest, momentum was already completely in Atlanta's favor, but I mean, this pretty much sealed the deal. It showed that this Magic team was losing composure, and the vibes were just at an all-time low. It unraveled when Desmond Bane, their newly acquired guard, who they got in a blockbuster trade last season, a very unexpected one to address their playmaking and floor spacing issues. He was ejected in the third quarter, and rightfully ejected. Atlanta's crowd erupted when this happened, and they had very good reason to. Bane flagrantly fouled Onyeka Okongwu. It was a very dirty play under the rim. It was definitely intentional. I mean, he grabbed his arm and he yanked him to the ground, and then while he was yanking him to the ground, the ball was in the air, and then he literally volleyball spiked it onto Onyeka's head. I literally couldn't believe what I was watching. I was like, are we serious? Like what are you doing? It's a pure frustration foul for Bane, and when you are getting torched every single night. I mean, he has had a very rough first couple weeks in Orlando. I mean, it has not looked great. Just the team in general, but Bane specifically, he has not been good for the Magic so far, and there's really no other way to put it. And just getting killed by your division rival once again, he was very frustrated, and he was getting torched on the defensive end, and he was frustrated, and he had Onyeka alone in transition. We know what happened from there. I mean, that man tried to kill Onyeka, but he was cool. Onyeka kept his composure. Mo Gay took offense to it. He got all up in his face, but then Desmond was trying to plead his case. He didn't think he should have been ejected, but he was very rightfully ejected. I mean, there's no place in the NBA for stuff like that. So, but by that point, by the time that ejection happened, Atlanta built a comfortable lead, and it never really got much lower than that. They scored 30 or more points in each of the first 3 quarters, going on multiple runs that left the Magic completely deflated. I mean, like I said, it was a momentum thing, and Orlando was never going to get it back. They had a 13-0 stretch in the first half, and then a 14-1 run later in the second, and stuff like that. What was vital to Atlanta getting the win. I mean, they would just go on some runs, and Jamal Mosley was refusing to call timeouts and get adjusted, and it was really just an all-around dominant win. This win also continued Atlanta's offensive consistency. That's been something that's been pretty good for the Hawks so far. They've now eclipsed 100 points in all 8 games this season. So I mean they've been good offensively. There's just been some real struggles on the defensive end, but I mean they're getting it together. Every single game they're showing improvements. And now with Trae Young out, as much as we enjoy his offensive contributions and what he brings to the lineup, you get more, you have more defensive potential as a lineup to be truly dominant. With that Dyson Nikhil backcourt, that is absolute hell for opposing guards. And while the offense deserves praise, the Hawks' defensive energy and just the way they've improved, it should not go unnoticed either. Dyson Daniels, who had probably his best offensive game of the season, he also extended his streak to 60 games with at least 1 steal. That is an unreal stat. That's actually the second longest in franchise history and the 9th longest in NBA history. I don't see that ending anytime soon. I mean, I don't have like all of the standings. I don't have where everyone is right now in those standings and where Dyson ranks. I mean, where the people in front of Dyson rank. But this is something that I expect to go on for a very long time, and we could be looking at some very elite company for Daniels very soon. Obviously, excluding if he were to, just go down with an injury like in the first quarter of a game, kind of like Trae Young did. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but if something like that does not happen, I mean, I don't see why Dyson Daniels can't, just continue to build that up and maybe even become the longest in NBA history. I don't see why not. I mean, I don't think there's going to be a game where Dyson Daniels doesn't record a steal maybe all season. With the way people handle the ball now and the just his composure and the way he just impacts really everything on the defensive end. I see it. I think he could get that up to like 100 games. I don't know. It's just another reminder. I mean, really, all of this is that the team's depth and versatility they're really starting to shine, and we're getting it together. I expect us to continue to win, and we've actually got next a game against the Toronto Raptors at home this Friday. It's actually an NBA Cup East Group A game, so Atlanta's 1-0 in the NBA Cup because of that win in Indiana, and I expect them to play with a little bit of edge in this next one, considering that the last time Toronto was here in State Farm Arena, it was opening night, and they absolutely torched us. So I expect them to be playing with a little bit of a revenge game on their mind, and Toronto has definitely been struggling ever since opening night. That was a little bit of a fluke game, and I think they're going to match up well with Toronto, even without Trae. So I think this is a great opportunity for the Hawks to get over 500 for the first time this season and be 5-4. But before we look ahead to that game against Toronto a whole lot, let's talk about a player who set the tone early in this one. Last year's first overall pick, Zachary Riezeshay. And this was the kind of game that Zachary Riezeshay needed. And that is not something that can be, overstated. I mean, he needed this one. And really, the Hawks needed this one. And Hawks fans needed this one because, we were very excited about Zachary Riezeshay going into year 2. But heading into Tuesday's matchup, the 20-year-old forward had been in a slump. He has not had a good start to the season. I mean, he had a decent opening night. I think he was one of Atlanta's better transition players and defenders, but yeah, I mean, just in general, it has been a very rough start to the season for Zachary Riezeshay. I mean, since then, he's only gotten over double digits like once, and through his first 7 games, he was just averaging 9.4 points per game on 42% shooting, a big drop from his rookie year because one of his biggest strengths in his rookie season was his efficiency, just because of like the looks he was getting, but also just his play style. I mean, he's always going to be an efficient guy, but yeah, he certainly was not in the first part of the season. His confidence looked shaky. His rhythm was seriously off, and Hawks fans were saying some crazy stuff. I mean, there were some legit overreactions that I was seeing on Twitter and even some articles. A lot of people were talking about, like saying that some of these other rookies in that class were better than him, and Atlanta should have selected this other player, yada, yada, yada. I don't agree, and I've always been a fan of Riezeshay, and I think the overreactions were pretty crazy. Obviously, he's not a normal number 1 pick. There was no generational prospect in this last year's draft, but Atlanta made the right move for their team fit, and it was always going to pay off, and I don't know why, first 7 games through his sophomore season after the stellar rookie season that he had. I mean, he had an amazing rookie season. He was definitely in some elite company, with some of the stuff that he did in his rookie year. And then just a lot of people giving up on him 7 games into the second season while he's 20 years old. I don't get it. I could never do that. I've seen too much from him. And yeah, he got it together in this game because he inevitably was going to get it together. They were wondering when he was going to turn it around, and he answered that question in about 4 minutes last night. I mean, literally right when the game started, he was the one who was putting Atlanta comfortably in the lead. Riza Shea opened the game. The very first basket of the game for the Atlanta Hawks was a tough contested three. I mean, he was fading back, and I forgot who was in his face defending him. It might have been like Wagner or someone, but it was either Wagner or Bain, but Riza Shea just let it fly from deep. It was a tough contested three, and it went in. And that was a great way to start the game, especially for Riza Shea. I've always noticed, like, when Riza Shea hits an early basket, and maybe even like the first basket, because he's someone who a lot of times gets the first basket regardless. I mean, Atlanta looks to him, very early. But yeah, he hit that three, and that really set the tone for his confidence for the rest of the night. And then right after that, on back-to-back possessions, he had 2 and 1. So he had an and 1 on one possession when he was located off a backdoor cut. Same thing really happened in the next possession, and it was another and 1. So with all that, he scored Atlanta's first 9 points of the game. I think it was like 9-6, Zachary Riza Shea over the Orlando Magic. Like, I mean, he was torching them early. And a few plays later, still in the first quarter, Jalen Johnson threw him a lob. He attempted to slam it, and he was trying to do like a behind the back slam, but he missed it. But what makes him great is he followed that out. He got his offensive rebound off of that miss. Then also that crowd would have exploded if he hit that. He actually attempted that like twice during the game, and he missed it both times. And I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, it's like the confidence. It is just such a huge difference in his confidence from the first 7 games to now. It's clear that him hitting shots early is something that's huge, and something that Atlanta should prioritize in these games, because it makes all the difference. Finding him early, letting him get into a groove, and not just have him standing there in the corner, just kind of in an awkward role. I mean, this is a guy you got to utilize. He's a very good talent, and just like that, like after he got his own rebound off of his missed dunk and then floated it in, he was in double figures. And by the end of the first quarter, he had 11 points. He was in double digits at the end of the first quarter. In the second quarter, the confidence continued. He kept shooting. His shot volume was very high. He stayed aggressive on the defensive end. He played within the flow of the offense. I mean, just a very impactful half. At halftime, Riza Shea had 16 points on 6 of 10 shooting, including 2 made threes and 3 rebounds. So he was getting boards. He was pushing the pace in transition. And he was just being the incredible off-ball cutter that we know him to be. He cooled off a little bit in the second half. He definitely did not have as much of an impactful half just as he did in the first, but that's fine because Atlanta was comfortably in the lead. He had already set the tone for the entire team, and a little bit into the third quarter, I mean, it was clear that Atlanta was going to win the game. He finished the game with 21 points in only 26 minutes, adding 4 rebounds, an assist, and a steal. And what stood out wasn't the numbers, and while the numbers look great, but it wasn't that. It was the confidence. He looked decisive. This was the most decisive we've seen him all season. He looked comfortable, and he was ready to take over when the team needed him to. And without this performance, Atlanta does not get the dominant win against the Orlando Magic. And looking ahead to Riza Shea's trajectory, when you combine his offensive potential with his size, defensive instincts, ability to play in transition, ability to get down the floor very quickly, move off the ball, and his growing comfort in Quinn Snyder's system, you start to see the makings of a long-term cornerstone piece. Something like this could easily be the turning point that gets his sophomore season back on track, because with Trae Young out, they're going to need all the contributions they can get, especially from Zachary Riza Shea, and this was a huge piece into getting the win against the Orlando Magic. In the post-game press conference room, I was there, and Quinn Snyder was actually asked if Zach was still on a minutes restriction, and he declined to answer that question. He made it very clear that he did not want to answer anything regarding rotation decisions, because he was like, if we were to break down every single player, I mean, I could go on for hours, and that's still something that would change every single game depending on the matchup. So he made it very clear he did not want to address anything about the rotation. We were trying to get an answer out of him, but he made it very clear he did not want to entertain any sort of questions about that. So let's go ahead and shift gears to another young Hawk who's been consistently impressive and definitely been Atlanta's best player so far this season. If we're talking about just contributions every single night. Jalen Johnson, who had big expectations coming into the season, but he only played 36 games last year, and so the biggest thing remains his health. But so far, knock on wood, he's been very healthy. He's been playing in every game, and he missed like one. The Duke product is now in his 5th year, and he's quietly putting together an all-star caliber season. He's been getting some recognition across the league just as someone who's having a real breakout. And remember, Johnson was on his way to an all-star appearance last season before a shoulder injury cut his season short, like I said, after 36 games. Hopefully we have a season where Johnson plays over 40 and maybe gets himself into that All-Star game. I mean, he might not have made the All-Star game last year, but, with the landscape of the Eastern Conference now, the numbers that he's putting up right now, I mean, he should be a lock. And if he continues to put up these exact numbers for up until the All-Star break. And with now with Trae Young sidelined due to that MCL sprain, Johnson has been kind of put into a bigger role, and he's thriving. I mean, he has taken the challenge head on, and he's playing really well. And Atlanta's staying afloat. They're still 500, and they have a great chance to get to above 500 on Friday. He is averaging a career-high 20.8 points while shooting 58% from the floor. Johnson's rebounding and playmaking both have improved, and so we're, in the first 2 games of the season, he wasn't racking up as many rebounds and assists. So that's kind of like holding his numbers back right now because they do look a little bit worse. His rebounding and playmaking numbers, they look a little bit worse, but it has not been worse, especially his playmaking. I mean, he's looked much better. I expect those assist numbers to keep climbing, and just really his versatility in general is giving Atlanta a completely different dynamic on both ends of the floor. And I want to see him with Trae Young, but right now as the number 1 option, he's killing it, and he's really looking like someone who can eventually be Atlanta's number 1 option. ESPN's Kevin Pelton even highlighted Johnson as during his list, in the middle of his list of the first-time All-Star candidates this week. He said that Johnson has a very good chance of getting his first All-Star selection this season. He compared his stat line to some pretty elite company. He said, last season, Johnson was one of just 4 players in the NBA averaging at least 10 rebounds and 5 assists per game. The other 3 were Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic, and Domantas Sabonis. That is some very elite company. That's like 2 MVPs and a guy who has been an all-star in several seasons. And with Trae Young out, I mean, Johnson's assist numbers are climbing even higher. He dished out 8 assists in Friday's win over Indiana. He had 5 assists last night against the Orlando Magic. So, I mean, this is a guy who's kind of being like a point forward. We expected him in this role, but like I said, with Trae Young out, it's just only going to get larger. In Indiana, he had 22 points and 13 rebounds as well. I mean, these are legit all-star numbers. He's becoming the heartbeat of this team. When he's aggressive, and when he's decisive, when he's attacking in transition, and not hesitating with his jumper, I mean, he's looking like LeBron James out there. The Hawks' offense in general looks completely different. It looks significantly more effective, and this makes all the difference. This is why the Hawks' offense and really just season was completely deflated last year when he went down with that injury, because his ability to create mismatches on both ends of the floor, push the pace, and distribute out of the top of the key, and I mean, he's great in the pick and roll too, as both the screen setter and the ball handler. He's someone who just the versatility that he brings is unmatched. It's unmatched. I mean, genuinely, it's given Quinn Snyder, more of an opportunity to run different sets, and just get creative with some of these play calls, and that's just going to pay dividends. I mean, having everyone in your lineup that can handle the ball, create a shot for themselves. I mean, Zachary Rieseshay is a work in progress with that, but it's only going to get. He's 20 years old, people, and for Jalen, the results speak for themselves. If he keeps this up, if he continues this level of play, puts up these exact same numbers, still averaging like 20 points and double-digit rebounds, and maybe even get up to like 7 assists per game, I mean, he's going to be an all-star. And it's going to be super fun watching him represent Atlanta in the all-star game, because I don't know if Trae Young will have played enough games to get that all-star selection this year, just considering the timing of his injury. But yeah, I mean, Jalen has a golden opportunity to really cement his case as an all-star, and All NBA is definitely a stretch this year, but he could be that type of player very soon. Just with the experience he's getting as Atlanta's number one option right now in the early part of the season. So let's close things out with something that's starting to look very, very promising for the Hawks' long-term future. The New Orleans Pelicans 2026 first-round pick. We've talked about that on this channel a whole lot, but we've gotten some more updates on that. Every time we get an update about that, we're going to break it down on this channel because it could be a franchise-defining asset. I mean, that's no exaggeration. Do you remember Atlanta made that draft day trade with the New Orleans Pelicans that seriously looked lopsided from the start? I mean, it was something that critics were really confused just in general. Why did New Orleans make this trade? Why did New Orleans think that they're going to be good next season and don't need their first-round pick? It all does not make sense, but the Atlanta traded down from the 13th pick to the 23rd, still getting their guy Asa Newell, and in return, they picked up the rights to the Pelicans' unprotected first-round pick in 2026, which is a swap between them and the Bucks. So whoever's worse between them and the Bucks, Atlanta gets their pick, and the Pelicans are going to be worse than the Bucks. We knew this heading into the season. Clearly, New Orleans did not. So let's look at the New Orleans Pelicans through 7 games of the season, and let's just say it's looking like an absolute steal. The Pelicans are 1-6. An amazing start to the year. Give it up to the New Orleans Pelicans. I mean, what a team to not have their own first-round pick this season. And they're already dealing with injuries and also some dysfunction and media pressure. Head coach Willie Green is reportedly on the hot seat just 2 weeks into the season. He has been someone who's been mentioned as someone who will likely get fired very soon. I'm honestly surprised that he hasn't yet. Him and Jamal Mosley have been kind of rumored to get fired, and so it's crazy how that's all kind of went bad. It hasn't been good for Orlando, But I mean, in New Orleans, I mean, this was kind of expected. But yeah, I mean, it's been worse than most expected. And we got an update now that Zion Williamson, their star forward, who has actually had a very good season so far, he was looking very much in shape. He's dealing with another hamstring injury, so that's going to sideline him for at least 7 to 10 days. They'll reevaluate him then, but reevaluation date does not mean return date, so Zion could miss some more extended time. It's a grade 1 strain, and that's adding to what has already been a long list of absences over the years. I mean, it was inevitable that Zion Williamson was going to get hurt, right? I mean, they had to at least think about that when they were, considering dealing their unprotected first-round pick to get Derek Queen, who actually, had a pretty decent game last night when the Pelicans picked up their first win. Shout out to them. Shout out to Derek Queen. It's going to be kind of unfair to him for the rest of his career because he's always going to be attached to that god-awful trade. But, I mean, the Pelicans have the second worst defensive rating in the league and the third worst offense. I mean, this has not been a good team so far outside of a few guys like Trey Murphy and, maybe like a Herb Jones. I mean, there isn't a single player making a consistent positive impact on both ends of the floor. I mean, you got Jordan Poole, who's a great a cool offensive player. I don't even want to say great, but he's a decent shot creator, and he's someone who can get his own basket and knock down the 3 ball at a high clip. But he's not making a consistent offensive impact, and clearly he's a negative defender. They've got guys like who's on that roster? I mean, they've got it's really just Trey Murphy. Like I'm trying to think of like guys that are impactful players on both ends of the floor. I mean, Jeremiah Fears, Zero Fears. That's super cool that he's wearing 0. Even him, like he's been great so far, but he's a rookie. Clearly he's not going to impact winning a whole lot in his rookie season. It's very difficult for rookie point guards to be good. I mean, Atlanta was spoiled with Trey, who did kind of suck in the first few months of his rookie season, but he got it together. But yeah, I mean, this is a bad New Orleans roster. That's only going to get worse when DeJounte Murray, former Hawk, comes back, because he's someone who's only impacting the offensive end of the floor. And so, I mean, he's not going to fit in well with the rest of the guys, and it's going to be an awkward fit. Their defensive backcourt's going to suck, and Zion Williamson might go down with another injury. Who knows? All of this, it's kind of music to Atlanta's ears and Hawks fans' ears. If the Pelicans continue to slide, the Hawks could easily end up with a top lottery pick in the 2026 draft, unprotected. Maybe even get the number 1 pick. But I think it's pretty much guaranteed to be top 3. I mean, depending on how the lottery gods, decide to have us, we got the number 1 pick recently, so maybe the lottery gods will not be kind to us and they'll give us like the 5th pick. Regardless, though, that's still great. I mean, we got the 5th overall pick in a loaded draft class. This draft is not just any other draft as well. It is projected to be loaded with elite talent. We're talking about names like Darren Peterson out of Kansas, AJ DeBanza out of BYU, Cam Boozer out of Duke. I mean, these are all guys that would be number one picks in other drafts. It's just they're all stacked into the same draft class. 3 of these guys are players with legitimate superstar potential, and Atlanta's going to have a very good shot at getting them. If the season ended today, I would be all in for Darren Peterson. I mean, I think that's my guy. I think he's going to be a superstar guard, and Atlanta has their chance to get their hands on him. If New Orleans does not turn things around, this swap could give the Hawks a chance to pair another young star with their already existing young core, their already proven young core, who's only getting better. And regardless of what happens with Trae Young, I mean, the future is very, very bright in Atlanta. It's something that could completely reshape the team's future. And we're going to continue to, check in on the Pelicans every now and then on this channel because, their success and their failures, it means a lot to the future of the Atlanta Hawks. So to recap, the Hawks took down the Magic 127-112 to improve to 500 on the season. They're 4-4 with a whole lot of momentum going forward. Now 2-0 against their division rival and 1-0 in the NBA Cup. And so the next game will be another NBA Cup game. Zach Langley breaks out of his slump. He had 21 points. Shout out to him. It's good to see him, play like we expect him to play. And so I hope the overreactions on him will slow down a little bit. Jalen Johnson continues his all-star level campaign, and the Pelicans pick continues looking better by the day. Atlanta's now back to 500 and will look to build momentum this Friday, like I said, against the Raptors in NBA Cup play. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Hawks Latest. If you enjoyed today's breakdown, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single update here on the channel. We're going to be pumping out videos every single day, keeping you guys informed on the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. But let me know down below in the comments what were your thoughts on Tuesday night's victory against the Orlando Magic. What did you like? What did you not like? Let me know it all down below. Zach Langley, he killed it. Let me know about his performance, what you think about his trajectory. I mean, were you guys did you guys think that Ricochet was cooked just 7 games into the season? I think that's ridiculous, but let me know your thoughts on his play. Also, let me know if you think Jalen Johnson can be an all-star this season, maybe even an all-NBA guy. And what do you think about the Pelican season so far? Do you think Atlanta's going to land the number 1 pick? Thanks to them. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'm Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and I will see you guys next time.